Pledge of allegiance, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening. This is the Franklin School Board meeting for October 19th, 2020. The school board meeting is being done at the Franklin Middle School Library. This is our regular board meeting. Community members may attend the meeting in person or email the superintendent questions or comments prior to the meeting at dlegalo@gm.sau18.org. Please include your name. All questions and comments will be read into the minutes. During the meeting, the public may participate by calling the superintendent's phone number at 266-9833 if you prefer not to attend. The public may also view the meeting on our YouTube channel using the link provided on YouTube. At this time, we will have the saluting of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kathy, were the meetings posted as is required?
Yes, they were.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Agenda item 2 is our public participation. During our public participation, anybody who wants to address the school board or has any comments for the school board may address the school board at this time. I give no more than 3 minutes per person for the public participation, and I give no more than 30 minutes for this portion. I also have a public participation at the end of the evening, so if you did not get an opportunity to speak at this first public hearing or public participation, you may speak at the end of our school board meeting during our second public participation. At this time, I have nobody within the library other than Athletic Director Danny Sylvester's here, but I don't believe Danny has any public participation to give. Danny does not. I have no other public attending our school board meeting at this time. Superintendent Legallo does have a couple of emails that he would like to read into as part of the public participation.
Okay. You have someone online too.
Yep.
Okay, so this first one is from Jason Graves. Good morning. I will keep this short and to the point. My family and I have 2 kids in the school system. Both go to Paul Smith, and I have loved it since day one. My son and daughter want to go back full-time, and we as a family support this 100%. I could say my findings of data, but both sides have said their ideas over and over. I have over 10 years in lab testing and lab work, and wife is an ICU nurse. We feel that it is time for the kids to go back full-time. If others want to stay home, let them, and let's support them. Our kids are ready to go back, and from the conversations I've had, the staff wants the same. If we have an issue and cases start going up, I feel and see that the schools have everything in place to fall back on. Thank you for your time and all of the hard work you and the board are working on. Bless you all and keep up the great work sincerely. James Chason. Sorry, I gave you the wrong name. James Chason.
You have a date of that?
The date of this was Monday, October 19th. That was this morning. Second letter is from Jason Graves. Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank Superintendent Legallo, School Board Principal Charette, Mrs. Miriam, and Mrs. Fligg for how quickly and professionally they have handled the situation. Their quick reactions helped prevent this turning into a much larger issue. The way that this incident was handled shows that the safeguards that were put in place worked and were 100% effective in stopping what could have turned into a much larger and more complicated issue. That being said, I would encourage the board to allow the fall sports season to continue with the playoffs and to allow the winter season to take place as scheduled. I know that not only 2 teams were directly affected by this, as well as all the other fall teams indirectly, but the entire student body. I think it would be a disservice to every student if because of one small contained incident, everything stops. We need to show everyone that when adversity strikes, you handle it and move forward. By canceling the fall playoffs and winter season, we would be setting a bad example for all students on how to handle adversity. Please give not only this year's seniors at least one more game, a senior game, but but every student athlete at least one more game this fall, as well as the opportunity for a winter season. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Jason Graves.
Thank you, Superintendent Legallo. We do have one public person that is on our Zoom tonight that wishes to address the board. Good evening. If you would just state your name and what ward you're in, and then you can go ahead and address the board, ma'am.
Simon Emerson. I'm a parent of 3 children at Franklin High School and middle school. I'm driving, so. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great.
Did you wish to address the board tonight?
I wanted to follow up on one of the agenda items for the board to discuss later in regards to the sports activities for soccer. Given the new information for all the COVID results coming back and the connections being positive, not positive results, but negative results, would they be considering reinstating all the sports and making up games, so on and so forth? That's pretty much all I have right now.
Okay. All right, well, soccer isn't on our agenda. I have the fall playoffs and winter sports is on our agenda for this evening.
There you go. I apologize. I can't read it. So.
Okay, so you're looking under the superintendent's report for fall sports, fall playoffs and winter sports?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, when we get to that portion of the meeting, when it's the update from our superintendent, you'll be able to hear the answers or decisions that the board made.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, as much as I can see, there's no other public participation, so I'm going to close that portion of our meeting. Agenda item 3 is the approval of board meeting minutes. We need to approve the board meeting minutes for August 17th, August 31st, and September 21st.
So we need to do them one at a time?
You are allowed to do them all in one package, and then you can make corrections to them.
Do we have different attendees for the different?
They'll have to abstain from it. They can state what ones they're abstaining from.
Okay.
If you want to do them one at a time, you can do them one at a time, but you can do them all in one group.
But I'll move to approve the minutes of the Franklin School Board meeting on August 17th as presented.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made by Delaney to accept the August 17th meeting, board meeting minutes as it was presented, second by Cecile Cormier. Do we have any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll need a roll call vote.
Jeff Savory,
Yes.
Scott Burns,
Yes.
Cecile Cormier,
Yes.
Delaney Courier,
Yes.
Tim Dow,
Yes.
and Deb Brown.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'll need it for the August 31st.
I'll move to accept the minutes of the Franklin School Board meeting for August 31st, 2020 as presented.
Motion's been made by Delaney to accept the school board meeting minutes for August 31st as presented. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Cecile. Do I have any discussion? Seeing none, I'll need a roll call vote, please.
Jeff Savory,
Yes.
Scott Burns,
Yes.
Cecile Cormier,
Yes.
Delaney Courier,
Yes.
Tim Dow,
Yes.
and Deb Brown.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Now we're at September 21st.
Move to accept the minutes for the Franklin School Board meeting on September 21st as presented.
Motion's been made by Delaney to approve the September 21st board meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Second by Deb.
Okay.
Do I have any discussion? Seeing none, I'll take a roll call vote, please.
Jeff Savory,
Yes.
Scott Burns,
Yes.
Cecile Cormier,
Yes.
Delaney Courier,
Yes.
Tim Dow,
Yes.
Deb Brown.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, those minutes are approved. Those are all the board meeting minutes that we've had pending for approval. I will now close agenda item 3 on our board agenda. Agenda item 4, old business committee reports. Deb, we'll start with you on Zoom.
We had a finance committee meeting on 9/15, and we reviewed the minutes for that meeting. There was no questions, and they were accepted as they were written. We looked at the presented, finalized budget calendar that Dan presented us, and that was no changes to that, except that we're going to add an additional meeting in case we need one for finalization of budget before the board meetings. Building projects, we talked about the fencing. Superior Fence was the only company that bid on that, and Jefferson was going to move forward with that quote so that we could get this project done, because we only have until December to finish it. We have a representative that will, from Oak Security, who will train additional personnel on keys and car codings and setting those up. Let's see. The interim facilities director is working on all the school requests that are in the system, which is our maintenance program that they use at the schools. And we talked about the HV for boilers and some other work projects that need to be done for additional possible rebates with A&E and E&E and AEI. Too many initials. Let's see. What else do we have? Jefferson gave us some numbers for the cars that are coming up in our our meeting tonight. Our enrollment were estimated for October 1st at 922. And we're hoping that we will be able to recoup some funds from FEMA. And let's see, Barbara Slayton is presenting tonight the DOJ program that I got emails on that where the school district and the state to receive these funds of $267,595.
Thank you, Deb.
All
Are you all set, Deb?
set.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Deb? All right, Kathy, just on the initials of couple of things that Deb came out, it's E&E for the rebates she was talking about. It's E&E and EEI. Just so we have those correct in the minutes.
Perfect, that's what I had, thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right.
Too many initials.
All right, Delaney.
Yeah, we had a strategic planning and communications committee meeting on October 14th. We went over some strategic planning items. We had Lynn Healy there, our strategic planning coordinator, and we're looking to get a full board meeting to review the plan and come up with some updates for it, and that will be discussed later by Dan. We reviewed all the communications related policies, and we had some referrals that will go to the policy committee. We had a demonstration of Apogee from Jewel, and that will be presented again to the full board this evening, so we'll all get to see that, and we're on schedule for the end of this month for transitioning to that system. We had data tracking reports, and our trends are looking pretty good, positive on all our hits there. And it looks like by the end of this year, we should have achieved most of our goals for communication, so we'll be stepping back our meeting cycle to quarterly.
All right, thank you, Delaney. Are any questions for Delaney? All right, Scott, I know you had, we had a little, we had the policy, so, it's all on the agenda. We did have a policy meeting. Those policies will be brought forward tonight for first reading. We also have a large amount of policies for second reading and approval tonight also. One other thing is that the city did reach out to us about possibly setting up or having a time to set up for a school.
Yeah.
All right.
Is that going to be a Zoom meeting or? an
Yes,
in-person?
that'll be a Zoom meeting. So April Bunker is the chair of that committee. She reached out to us, and then they did a survey to try to come out with a date. So I guess Jeff and April were able to figure out between the survey and everything of April 29th. So we'll have that liaison meeting with the city, and that will be a Zoom meeting.
Could I get an invite to that?
Anybody can go to it.
Right.
So we'll make
Can
sure.
you, get it
the link.
publicized, yeah?
Yep. Yep. We'll get the link. We'll ask Audrey to make sure that the full board gets a link to it.
Tim?
Yeah, would you do that? Would you email Audrey, Jeff? Yep. Yes, go ahead, Kathy.
No, it's Deb.
Oh, go ahead,
I was
Deb.
just wondering, will we get a link to the Zoom meeting?
Yeah, Jeff is actually reaching out right now to Audrey at City Hall and requesting that the full board gets the link to that so other board members can listen in on it.
Okay, thank you.
Just realize when you listen in, you're gonna listen in as a citizen because we can't have a quorum there. So
Yes.
anything
Yeah.
above the board members, you have to present yourself as citizens. So that way there we don't have a quorum because we can't do that at committee meetings. Okay, are there any other committee reports that come forward before the school board this evening?
I have a couple of questions, actually. One for Scott, the form that you use for your committee minutes, is that something that you just made up, or is it something that's available that we can share?
It's available, yeah, I can send you the template if you want it, yeah.
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 Maybe we can put it in a board shared folder or something, just so
That
everybody
was-
can, I like the format, it looks,
Yeah, that
Good,
was
easy,
suggested by the School Board Association. Deb and Susan actually went to a meeting there and for new board members, and they came back with that, so,
Alright.
and I use that throughout.
alright, excellent. We didn't see the committee meeting minutes for finance, and the communication committee minutes weren't in this full meetings packet that I was able to find. Is there a process that we should be?
Yeah, I
setting up kind of-
I haven't received either one of them yet to put in.
You got mine.
I didn't. That's why I
You didn't
emailed
get
you back.
the shared file?
Did not
We
get it.
emailed back and forth and.
No, I didn't hear back. I didn't get them from either you or Deb yet. But I will put them in there as soon as I get them.
All right, no, I apologize.
No, that's okay.
It's a shared document, so it wasn't in the email, so it should have just been, available to drive, but I'll forward it again. All right, thank you.
Oh, so it should be in the drive, Delaney? Is that what I need to look at?
Yeah, it's a shared, I
that
just
what-
set up my
okay.
board minutes as a shared document, and they're shared with you, so if you look at your shared documents, they.
Okay, I guess I missed that in the email.
Yeah, maybe we can talk and just try to set up a file format or a folder structure on our shared system so that we can just drop them in there and they'll just be there.
It'll just be
To
there.
make it easier,
That would make it much easier, I think, yeah. Yeah, we can do that. We'll talk at our next communications meeting.
All right, so
Thank you.
make a note.
Thank you.
Anything further? Okay, I'm gonna close that, agenda item 4 will be closed. I'm gonna go to agenda item 5. Agenda item 5 is new business, and that's our update from our business administrator. So Jefferson, it's your on.
All right, good evening all. I actually wanted to piggyback on what Deb Brown was talking about, the FEMA money. This was related to Additional CARES Act, or GOFER. That was the acronym that was used for the governor. Because of all the school districts that were informed that they were no longer eligible by the federal FEMA, that the PPE and items such as that would not fall under that funding.
Excuse me,
Yes?
can you speak up just a little louder, please? I'm sorry.
I lost my train of thought. The NHSAA and other organizations, I think Director Carl Ladd of the NHSAA presented to the governor about using the Gopher funds to help with all the schools that lost out on all this FEMA money. And it sounds like a decision was made, and each school was gonna get about $200 per student. So for Franklin, that could be close to about $184,000. So that helps out a lot, especially with any of the costs that we have to handle for the pandemic, and allow us to use our CARES Act money more expediently.
Where did you see that, the money, the source of that was?
It was called Gopher, G-O-F-E-R-R, which was additional CARES Act funds that the governor had set aside. And the NHSAA Director Carl Ladd, he put forth a plea to the governor to allow some of those funds to be used towards schools that were informed that they no longer get FEMA money, or could not actually use FEMA money for the pandemic costs that they accumulated. And the plea worked. I guess the best way to put it. In the folder on the shared drive for the board meeting, I put in 6 documents. One of them is the MS-22, which is the appropriations, report of appropriations as voted. This is the amount that was approved back in July, I believe it was, when the city council approved our budget. This does not include the additional funding that we would look to get at the November meeting or after that, depending on when the city council approves it or not. The purpose of that was to help with the tax rate setup and get that done right now. And the additional funds that we're going to be requesting will be treated like a special meeting. It'll just be after the fact. But they want to move forward with get the tax rate setting done right now, which is the normal time for that to happen. The challenge was the fact that we also were informed on October 1st what our actual adequacy aid number was. So the adequacy aid number came in at $261,600 more than the original estimate. So what I was allowed to do with discussions with the city manager and with our representative at DRA was adjust some of our revenues. I took it basically from fund balance and reduced the amount of fund balance as projected in our revenues to offset that additional increase in the adequacy aid, so that the amount of money that was going to be raised by taxes for the school district would not change. And that's also in this form that I have in the drive called the MS-24, that is the revised revenue estimates. So I took the $286,000 that I originally projected for fund balance and reduced it by the $261,600 to offset the increase in adequacy aid. And this is what will be used to set the tax rate for Franklin for the state and local portion of the education tax. I can explain it further, but I don't want to get too complicated at this point. The MS-22, I have a copy of that here, which I do need board members to sign that. So I will pass that around. Also in the drive, there was the council agenda report for those additional revenues we are getting. The $261,600 for the adequacy aid, $75,000 for the Project Aware funding, and the additional fund balance that we were getting, after we cleaned up the year, was $116,418. Also added to that report was a grant we just received that Barbara Slayton will be talking about, a Stop School Violence grant for $267,595. So you'll see all those pieces broken out on the council agenda report and the subsequent resolution that will be brought forth at the November meeting at the City Council. Also, I have in there our 2 revenue reports, revenue projections that we use during the budget process. The one that says updated 10/1/2020 shows the additional revenues that I just spoke about that were being presented to the City Council in November. The other one is the one that I used to actually bring forward for the tax rate setting. So, if you have any questions on those, I can certainly try and answer those either now or anytime in the future. And that's really all I have at the moment. Hopefully I didn't confuse everybody.
Can you touch a little bit so people realize what we also could be looking at for next year's budget?
Well, yeah, the big potential for next year's budget, we have some challenges because obviously we're at the end of the biennium budget for the state. And the adequacy formula has 2 components to it that are set to expire as part of the negotiation of the adequacy formula. One was for additional funds that we received for free and reduce, and that's one of the things that we are working very hard to make sure, even though we're still able to provide free meals for everybody through the rest of the year, we still need all the families to complete those free and reduced applications, because those applications help determine how much adequacy aid we get in the next subsequent year. And Title I funding that we get also through the state and the federal government is run through free and reduced applications and those rates also. Also, we receive money called E-rate, which is to be in all the variables related to that, potentially new governor, new legislature, whatever else, and whatever the education funding group comes up with. Assuming worst case scenario, we could potentially lose, based on this year's numbers of student population, about $896,000 in our next budget cycle. So we're hoping that some of the extra revenues that we're hoping some of the extra revenues that we're getting this year, we will be able to carry forward as fund balance into our subsequent year to help offset that, plus any capital reserves that we put aside already this past year. And I think we have potentially some other unanticipated revenues that might be coming in this year. So, and anything else we have to, as far as what we save, if we can, in this current budget that we're in.
Are we doing, or are we allowed to do any outreach on the applications for free reduced?
Oh, we are definitely doing that. Brenda Patel, our food service director, actually did up a whole flyer that another school district used to explain the fact that even though you're getting free meals for the year, we still need the applications, because this is what it gives us as far as school funding and stuff like that. Is not just getting free meals or reduced meals for those children, because that doesn't apply this year, but it also helps us on other areas for getting school funding for our district. So we are definitely sending stuff out through Alma or Facebook, posting it on Facebook. So we're definitely reaching out to the families.
Sense of returns relative
Yes,
to
I
where we're expecting to be at?
certified our data last week for free and reduced lunch, and it was very comparable to last year's, so I felt pretty good about that. But we should still continue to canvass everyone and get every application that we can get in.
And I believe there's
Looks
also
pretty
another
good.
report in the spring that is submitted to the state also that will help clean up those numbers a bit. And we just keep getting in contact with those families, because Brenda's very good at reaching out to those families that she knows typically would need to fill out an application. One of the things we do get, and we do it every month, is what they call direct certification. Direct certification means that the families receive aid from other state sources or federal programs already, and because of that they automatically qualify, and we get a report from the state that we would dump right into our food service program that would identify those children right away without having to go through the application process, and that saves a lot of the paperwork also there.
Thank you, Jefferson. Is there any other questions for Jefferson? All right, seeing none, if you have any questions, please forward those questions to Dan, and Dan and Jefferson will sit down and discuss them. Okay, under new business, next under new business is our update from our superintendent. So you're up, Dan.
All right, thank you. Delaney, I just found those minutes, by the way. Thank you. I know where they are now, so I appreciate that. All right, hybrid update. So as you know, a week from Friday, a week past Friday, we had our first COVID cases in the district. And we went to a full remote status at all 3 buildings. Pleased to let you know that this afternoon we reopened for tomorrow morning. So all 3 buildings will be back in hybrid status starting tomorrow. So we're all happy about that.
Text me.
Yeah, I'm just telling them, sorry.
Thank you. Just
Keep
refresh
going.
the chat.
They just keep chatting and it just keeps popping. Oh, I can say it. Guys, every time you chat, it pops up, so if you can like text each other or something, that would be awesome. Thank
Text
you.
me or Joe, please.
Sorry.
All right, moving on. So I have no recommendations at this point for us to change our model at this point. You know, we still have A days on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We have B days on Thursdays and Fridays. We have a fully remote Monday that seems to be working well. So I have no recommendations to do anything differently at this point. And we'll continue to monitor. As we know, it is starting to spike across the state. So we'll keep our eyes open and pivot as necessary. Questions on that? Everybody good? All right. Today's the last day for us if we're going to submit any NHSBA, School Boards Association resolutions. I had mentioned this, I think, last month. Didn't know if there was any interest in any topics that we wanted to put together and send forward. If not, moving on to Hannaford donations. We have 2 donations from Hannaford's Help Schools. The first donation is for $3,807 at Franklin High School, and the second is for $1,003 at the Paul Smith School. So I'll need motions on those to accept.
I make a motion to accept the donations as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made to accept the donations as presented by Deb. It was seconded by Scott. Do I have any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll need a roll call vote on those donations.
Jeff Savory,
Yes.
Scott Burns,
Yes.
Cecile Cormier,
Yes.
Delaney Courier,
Yes.
Tim Dow,
Yes.
Deb Brown.
Yes.
Motion
Thank you.
passes unanimously. Kathy, can you just note that Chris Nealon is now in the meeting with us?
Will do, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a side question, Dan,
Yeah.
related to Hannaford there. There was talk, I wanna say last winter or so, about them opening up food pantries in schools. Have you heard any updates on that?
Yep, they're actively working with us on that through the channels that we have. So we've actually just had some meetings with them in the last 2 weeks. So we are continuing to work with them. They are starting to support our programming. So we can actually put it on the agenda maybe for next month to have an update and have the principals update as well. So let me make a note of that. But yes, we are actively engaged with them, which is great. All right, next up, some more good news financially. As you all know, we have received the Department of Justice grant. Barbara Slayton, our Office of School Wellness Coordinator, is the author of that grant and deserves all the credit. She's here tonight to talk about that grant. It's one part of a 2-part grant. We are still waiting on the second part of the grant. It's a 3-year grant that brings $267,595 to us. So I'm going to ask that we accept that money first, and then I'm going to let Barbara tell you all about it.
Okay, so we'll need a motion to accept that grant.
So moved.
So moved by Cecile to accept the Department of Justice grant in the amount of $267,595. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Scott Burns. Do we have any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll need a roll call vote.
Jeff Savory,
Yes.
Scott Burns,
Yes.
Cecile Cormier,
Yes.
Delaney Courier,
Yes.
Tim Dow,
Yes.
Deb Brown,
Yes.
and Chris Nealon.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously, and we'll now let Bob kind of talk about this grant a little bit. Hi, Bob.
Hello, everybody. So the STOP grant, as Dan mentioned, was a two-part grant. We did apply for both parts of the grant. There's a mental health portion of the grant, and there's a behavioral threat assessment team portion of the grant. This is the behavioral threat assessment portion of the grant. So this is the part that we have received word on. We have not received word either way on the other portion of the grant. So this part that we're accepting tonight will allow, first of all, the major portion of it, it pays half of my salary, so happy about that. And the other funding will be used for professional development and training around the development of a behavioral threat assessment team, which we'll do in partnership with the police department and our community partners. So that team will consist of counselors, law enforcement, probably Jay is the safety person for the district, probably a principal. So it will be a multidisciplinary team that we can put into place whenever we have a threat on the district, or we can use it for things like if a student makes a threat against another student, it would be sort of the tip of the triangle of our MTSSB model. So for those students who are creating behavioral problems, having emotional problems, suicide ideation, all of those things that can lead into a bigger threat for the school district. So we'll be using some of that funding to likely enhance our training for the counseling staff on suicide ideation protocols, perhaps look at an evidence-based tool that we could use for that. We will also be, as I said, partnering with the police department on a model called NABITA, and I can't remember what NABITA stands for, but it's a very structured evidence-based model for team development. So once we establish the team, there'll be monthly meetings, and we'll do sort of some background training, and that will take place over the next couple of years. The second component, of which we may or may not get to, or we may or may not decide that we want to do, involves looking at technology applications to do some anonymous reporting. So that would, for example, allow a student to say, I heard another student make a threat, or I saw this, which could be very valuable, but the flip side of that coin is that we would need to make sure that we have the monitoring and the response system in place if we're going to be able to do that. So we don't want to set up a system that's too big for us to fully work with. So I am open to any questions that anybody might have about that.
Are there any questions for Bob?
I'm sorry?
I was seeing if anybody had any questions for you, Bob.
Thank you.
But there's even more good news to this whole thing about this grant. And that is that we received a letter from Senator Shaheen's office on this grant. And Barbara writing this grant out, and the amount of time and the detail that she wrote into this grant, Franklin School District is the only school district in the state of New Hampshire that received this grant. And we received that notification from Senator Shaheen's office congratulating us on the Franklin School District receiving this award. So I think a lot of that goes to Barbara for the work she did. Thank you, Barbara, again.
Thank you, and let's keep our fingers crossed. The other half of the grant, if we get it, or the part one of the grant, would sustain a lot of the systems of care, mental health, professional development work that we've been doing. So that was the one I thought that we did a better job applying for, so yeah. I'm still hoping for that.
And obviously, the Senator Shaheen thought the same thing, and I know the union leader picked the letter up too, about us receiving the grant, being the only school in the district in the state that received it. So there was an article in the union leader about it also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. So with the shift to remote learning a week ago Friday, we did pause on all sports in the districts. So I had talked to Danny Sylvester about coming tonight just to give us an update of where we're at. With the reopening tomorrow, sports should resume as planned. So I wanted Danny to let you know what we had in store for us in the next week or two. And then I wanted a broader discussion about winter sports in general. Just so everyone's aware, as part of the contact tracing with our positive COVID cases, we did have to reach out to the ADs of the different districts that we had played during that time, and I had to reach out to a couple of the superintendents as well. So first, I just wanted to thank Danny for taking the time to do that and work with the other ADs, because it wasn't just a Franklin thing. We had to really reach out to the other districts as well. And I want to just thank everybody for the trying to follow the protocols that we have in place to make sure that we contain any kind of issues that we have. So Danny, if you want to just fill them in, that'd be great.
Okay, stay here? No.
I think he wants you a little closer, maybe.
Right between Jeff and the thing will give you a good shot. Right there.
We like to get you a good side.
Yeah, that's okay. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me, and I want to echo the same sentiments. The team we have here has just been fantastic. Just both school-wise first, and then athletically. Getting through that was not fun. There was a lot of phone calling, emailing, texting, but the transparency has been great, and the communication has been just wonderful. It's kind of one of those things that we've learned a lot, and we'll know more for next time. It's just one of those things like insurance, we hope there's not a next time. But we certainly learned a lot from the experience, and we have a great team here. And I just want to thank everybody for their patience, too, in getting through it. So as Dan mentioned, what I'm going to talk to you more about, because we're pretty much at the end of the year, especially for middle school sports, is playoffs and what that's going to look like. So we can all kind of feel comfortable, because I did give a little caveat, remember back in August when we talked about accepting sports with the minimum travel. The caveat was once we reach playoffs, we might have to go outside that 30-minute time travel. It all depends on the bracket. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that. First of all, with the middle school, this is technically their last week except for football. So what we have this Wednesday for middle school, they have 4 games on this Wednesday, including football, and then 3 of those teams are done. Next week, next Wednesday, the football team will have 1 more football game at Winnisquam. No tournaments. There's nobody's hosting any of these year-end JV or middle school tournaments, which is a good thing. I know if we had hosted one in the past, we would not be hosting anything like that. Doesn't make sense. The cheer team, we don't want to forget them. They do have a couple of competitions that they normally go to. They are going to have 2 competitions. They're going to be virtual. So they're going to be in the confines of our own Franklin High School gym doing a couple of virtual competitions. And that's it for middle school. For the high school, this Friday, our field hockey team was lucky to get the bid for a home playoff game. Records don't matter when it comes to this. The NHI said they were going to be completely flexible with regular season, scheduling regionally, and because of all that, we don't really have a whole lot of control of who we play. So they decided to pick from a hat, and our field hockey team actually got the #1 seed in our cluster. So we're going to host a playoff game on this Friday. We play the winner of Guilford St. Thomas, which should have played today. The real good news about that was because we had to miss their senior game, because we called off some games this week and last week, we get to use that as a senior game for the girls, which is great, and we have like 5 seniors. Next Monday will be soccer playoffs, same thing. We got a good draw. We got a home playoff draw. For that, we'll be playing against Moultonborough, and we're going to do the same thing. We'll have a senior game for that. Next Wednesday will be the volleyball playoffs. Again, we drew out of the hat. We got a #2 seed for that and are playing home against Interlakes. The unfortunate thing is Interlakes, like our school, a lot of schools have hit some cases here. They've decided to play all their games through this weekend, and they're shutting down. There's going to be no playoffs at their school. So our team walks right into the quarterfinals from there. So good news for us, bad news for them. And again, I won't know if that's going to be home or away yet. So we have a lot of home playoff games that we're going to be hosting, so we don't have to do any travel at this point. Football playoffs, still don't know. They have their last regular season game at Interlakes this Saturday. And then we'll know Saturday night, because I serve on the football committee. We're going to have a Zoom meeting Saturday night at 7 to discuss football playoffs. And again, that could be home or away. Our cheer team will compete at their normal state competition on Sunday, 11/8. That may also end up being a virtual type of thing. Again, that we don't know that quite yet. I will have 2 gates at all of these playoff games, both ends of the high school for outside games, 2 tickets per athlete. That's all they're getting. They're going to be family members. So even more strict than what we've had for our regular season type games, where we said it was immediate family members, including grandparents. So this, we're going to max it. And that was the NHIA recommendation. So we're going to stick to that recommendation for both home and away fans. So there'll be minimal people that we're letting into these games. Volleyball will have 1 gate right out here if we end up hosting that quarterfinal game. Any questions on fall sports? So we're pretty nearing the end here. All right, winter sports. Believe it or not, the one sport that scares us even as athletic directors more so than even football did is basketball. You know, how are we going to do that? It's an inside sport. They're constantly rubbing up against each other, so on and so forth. So the first thing is that the NHI did okay to have winter sports. So now it's up to the school districts to make their own decisions. The winter sports that we're going to have will be middle school girls and boys basketball. That's it, the middle school. At the high school would be girls and boys basketball, varsity and JVs, plus indoor track. But at this point, from what we're hearing, the indoor track will be canceled. Most of the venues for that are colleges. They're the ones that have the indoor tracks in the winter. UNH, Plymouth State, Dartmouth, and you know what they're doing at colleges, they're not. So more than likely that's going to be a canceled sport. So we're really looking at boys and girls basketball at both schools to deal with. The NHIA did change their start dates. They normally start in mid-November for girls basketball, and then the week of Thanksgiving, 1 week after that, for boys. They are allowing us to open things up and start preseason informal workouts on November 30th. So they're letting everybody get through Thanksgiving, have that break between fall sports and when winter informal workouts start. Actual start date for games won't be until December 14th, and those normally start around December 1st. So we're a good 2 weeks later to get our feet underneath us from fall sports and figure out what we're doing. No winter tournaments. There's a lot of Christmas tournament type games, holiday tournaments that go on. I don't know again who's going to be hosting those, but even if they do, we will not be attending those. That just doesn't make sense to go to a place inside and have 8 or 10 teams participating in a tourney and be around that. So I'm in favor of not allowing us to participate in any holiday tournaments. First date to actually play won't be until January 11th, which is well after your normal early December dates for that. So again, one of the big reasons for that is to give people a chance over the holiday to figure out what they did if they traveled outside of New England and they need to quarantine for 2 weeks. So we're looking at a mid-January date. So pretty much in general, just remember it this way. We're going to follow the same types of protocols we did for fall. We're going to do regional scheduling, no mouth guards, serious conversation going on about mandatory mask wearing for players. Whereas we didn't decide that for fall sports. Some schools did. Hopkinton, I think Somersworth did. The ADs are having a serious conversation about having it be mandatory in our own divisions, that the players are going to wear masks. Again, regional play, we can have a travel max again. And again, for winter months, I would definitely recommend 2 spectators max per athlete. And that would be for both home and away fans. It's an inside sport. I think we should be very strict when it comes to that. Less games and less practices also. Again, just like we followed for fall. So basically try to minimize the risk as much as we can. So that's
What's
it.
basketball? What's basketball going to do for a playoff? Are they going to not have it then? Like, I mean, we have all these other ones. We have the soccer and field hockey and everything going on.
I would think they're going to do the same thing. And just to move back to that also, what the NHIA did with us was they clustered the first 2 rounds as much as they could.
Yep.
So for instance, volleyball, we got put in a cluster with Newfound, Interlakes, Moulton Borough, and Belmont, I think. Winnisquam's not in our division anymore for volleyball, so they didn't get put in there. So that way you're guaranteeing your first game to be in your cluster. regional and clustered. So as close to home as possibly can be, even if you travel. So pretty much the guarantee is that your first couple of rounds, your preliminary and quarterfinal, will be in your cluster and close by, but semifinals and finals, now it's kind of all hands on deck with where you're gonna be playing and how far you're gonna be traveling.
So the Lakes Region athletic directors, are you guys all in agreement that we'll keep everybody in the same area of the Lakes Region and keep it not no more than 30 minutes again?
Well,
Can we look at
ours
that
was
again?
no more than 30 minutes.
Right.
Some of theirs is a little different than that. Some of
Okay.
them is 30 miles.
Okay.
Some of it's 25 miles, something like that, but absolutely. Matter of fact, we have a Zoom meeting with all the Lakes Region ADs on Thursday to discuss winter sports, and that, we're looking to do the same thing.
30
Regional play.
Yep.
We are supposed to be in Division 4 this year for basketball. That's not gonna happen. Come playoffs, it has to. Like, for instance, soccer, we're in Division 4, so we didn't play any Division 4 teams in the regular season, but we participate in the Division 4 playoffs, which makes sense. Basketball will be the same thing. We're gonna have to go back to playing our Lakes Region foals, which are all D3 teams. But it is what it is. We're okay with that. As long as everybody's gonna make playoffs, it's gonna be an open draw, so on and so forth. So they've tried to stay as flexible as they can, meaning the NHI, and they've done that. They've held true. So yeah, it's pretty much gonna mirror fall. Yeah.
And you're gonna stay within you wanna stay within just 2 other people, athletes, immediate family members to attend these games then?
Yeah.
Now,
Especially being that it's inside.
From the JV to the varsity games, you have the parents, you're gonna allow those parents to stay during the varsity game, or you're gonna have parents kind of transition in and out?